Let's take a look at 26 mistakes you might have missed in seasons 8 and 9 of SpongeBob. You don't want to miss these, so watch and listen closely to see if you can spot them. Now, let's dive in. First up is Hello Bikini Bottom from season 8. In this episode, a band manager approaches SpongeBob and Squidward after hearing them play and offers to help them out. However, Mr. Krabs takes over as the manager once he hears there is money to be made. SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs depart on a bus to begin their tour as a band.
Here we are, boys, our first gig. All those people are lined up to see you.
Sounds like a load of hooey.
But there are a few interesting mistakes in this episode. The first one is a simple one. When Incidental 46 is playing a loaf of bread like an accordion, she is missing her usual red top. Every time she's featured in other episodes, she's wearing one. Try to spot the mistake in this scene on your own.
They even redecorated the tour bus mobile for us.
Mr. Krabs!
Quick, on the bus.
Well, that wasn't a complete waste of time. Oh no, wait. It was.
Did you see it? It has to do with a certain pink starfish. We never see Patrick get on the bus. He tells Mr. Krabs about the graffiti, then we see SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs run onto the bus. Suddenly, in the next shot, all four of them are on the bus, despite us never seeing Patrick get on. The next error happens here, when SpongeBob is singing his heart out. He drops his ukulele on the top of the bus, and we can see it next to him. But during the side shot of the bus and the bird's eye view, the ukulele is nowhere to be seen. We also see SpongeBob rip off his pants while he is singing, but when the song is over, he suddenly has his pants again. At the end of the episode, Plankton tries to buy the Krusty Krab.
Hello, sir. I'd like to purchase the Krusty Krab restaurant you have in your... Where is it?
Oh, sorry, sir. I just sold it a minute ago. But we do have this slightly used taco stand for sale.
Plankton has a wagon of money behind him and is holding onto the handle, but in the very last scene, the wagon is suddenly gone. Next up is Eek and Urchin from season 9. An urchin is on the loose in the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs do everything they can to capture it, all while terrified of the little creature. Plankton and Mr. Krabs call a truce in order to defeat the urchin, but it doesn't go so well for Plankton.
Come on, open up! Get me out of here!
Poor Plankton.
Who cares about Plankton? What about me restaurant?
I heard that!
So there is actually a mistake in that scene, but you wouldn't have noticed it unless you compare it to the next shot of that door.
It's time to end this madness. Let's put this freak show on ice.
The first time we see the door, there is no thermostat next to it, but when Squidward walks up to change it, it suddenly appears. The door is also boarded up here, but once the thermostat is all the way down, they open it and all the boards are just gone. Now, we're going to jump back a bit to the start of the episode. When SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs are all standing on the grill, all of their feet start to burn and they jump into the toilets to cool them off. This makes sense for Squidward and Mr. Krabs because they don't have shoes, but SpongeBob does, so his feet shouldn't have gotten burnt like the other two. Also, in this same scene, when SpongeBob is standing in the toilet, his right arm is missing. Now, for these next two scenes, keep an eye on the background.
Plankton? Oh, that's all we need. Beat it, you crook! We have enough pests already.
Pests? What are you talking about? Ah! An urchin! What? I hate those things. I can't steal the secret formula with that vermin running around. I propose a truce, Krabs. I'll help you get rid of that creature, and I promise not to steal the secret formula until it's gone.
When Plankton first sees SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs, they are all in front of the register and closer to the front door. But after Plankton jumps onto SpongeBob's face, they are all beside the register and closer to the kitchen. Plankton calls for one of his robots to help with the urchin problem. When it's seen coming in through the front door, the chum bucket, which should be across the street, is missing. Mr. Krabs ends up destroying this robot with a mallet, and after he's done beating it into oblivion, he tosses his mallet away. But just a moment later, he has it again in order to stop the urchin from eating all this precious money. Next on our list is Bumper to Bumper from Season 9. SpongeBob, 9 seasons later, is still unable to overcome his fear of the road and pass his driver's test. Mrs. Puff tries to come up with a new method, but it doesn't end well for her, as usual.
You, ma'am, are a parole violator, which makes this test null and void. I'll take that.
That's tough. Well, anyways, on to the mistakes. First, throughout this entire episode, Mrs. Puff's shoes are the wrong color. Normally, she has red shoes, but in this episode, they're black. Another error in this episode, compared to other episodes, are the boats. Usually, they only have 3 wheels, 2 in the back and 1 in the front. But in this episode, they have 4, as we can see here. Now, try to spot this next mistake with SpongeBob.
Now, scooch over. Come on, scooch over.
We can see SpongeBob has his seatbelt on when Mrs. Puff gets out of the car, but when it switches to a close-up shot, he is no longer wearing one. Right after, SpongeBob asks this.
But Miss Puff, what about the fact that I'm unteachable?
Did you catch that? He says Miss Puff instead of Mrs. Puff. The error only happens there, because 5 seconds later, he says it the right way.
Miss Puff, I'm still intimidated.
When the officer is trying to pull SpongeBob over, he has a megaphone. But when SpongeBob speeds up and they initiate a chase, the megaphone has disappeared. There is a bit of inconsistency with Mrs. Puff's ankle bracelet throughout the episode. We see it here, at the beginning of the episode. But when she gets up to walk to the door, it's gone. A similar mistake happens at the end of the episode, where the ankle bracelet isn't there when Mrs. Puff gets out of the car, then it's there when she looks down. But when Mrs. Puff is thrown into the van, it's gone again. Another thing that disappears in this last scene is Mrs. Puff's handcuffs. She has them when she's thrown into the van, but when we see her again, grabbing onto the bars and yelling at SpongeBob, they're gone. Next is Squid Defense from Season 9. In this episode, Squidward is looking to learn how to defend himself after a terrifying encounter. He goes to SpongeBob and Sandy to learn karate.
Now give it a chop!
Whatever you say, Sensei.
This is a tough one, Squidward. Don't feel bad if you can't do it.
I'm sure I can break one little twig.
At the beginning of the episode, Squidward goes over to SpongeBob's house. SpongeBob and Gary can be seen sitting on the couch watching TV. But when Squidward is inside, the couch has disappeared and Gary is on the floor instead. Where did it go? Who knows? For this clip, watch Sandy's teeth. The mistake is pretty hard to miss.
Great. Repeat after me. Hi-ya! Hi-ya!
Oh, whatever. Hi-ya.
I promise to use karate.
I'm sure you saw it. The mistake is pretty bad. Sandy's teeth suddenly turn the same color as her face. We've seen errors like this before, but usually they're only visible for a split second. This error goes on for multiple seconds. Same goes for this last error. When Squidward is watering Sandy's lawn, her tail is missing completely. This next one is easy to miss, but look at how many tentacles Squidward has in each scene. From far away, you can see he has his usual 4 tentacles, but during the close-up when Sandy pokes his stomach, he only has 2. And the last one we'll be looking at for today is Planktons Pet, a wholesome episode from Season 9 where Plankton goes in search of a companion. At the animal shelter, he meets an amoeba he names Spot.
He looks like a spot to me.
That name provokes a violent reaction. Spot it is!
How adorable. There are only a few mistakes in this episode. When Plankton first tries to sneak into the Krusty Krab in a baby disguise and literally gets kicked out by Mr. Krabs, the path that connects the main road to the Krusty Krab isn't there. It should be right across from the path connecting the Chum Bucket to the main road. Watch SpongeBob's mouth in this next scene. His mouth moves like he's saying something, maybe order up, but there is no sound. We only hear him after we've cut back to Spot and he's singing to himself. It's possible that his mouth moving and his singing were supposed to line up, but they didn't. Either way, it's still an error. And for this last mistake, SpongeBob accidentally lets some animals out at the shelter. There are 3 animals that get out, but we're focusing on the sea urchin and the guardworm. The sea urchin is in the 3rd pen, and the guardworm is in the 2nd pen when they're released. But when they run back into their cages, they've swapped cages. And now the guardworm is in the 3rd pen, and the sea urchin is in the 2nd one. Well, that's all for today. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe. Then click the video on screen to watch our newest video. See you there!